All right, hey everyone, my name's Rhys Gregory. I've been working multimedia for the last 10 years and in front-end design development for the last 5 years. I work for a company called Artisan Digital. We're based in South Yarra, quite a small team. We work with clients like Webjet, a few bookies and Marketplacer, which I didn't know was the sponsor. And today I'm going to be talking to you about my recent project, which was moving from a traditional style sheet to Polymer, and essentially throwing the rulebook out the window, basically. Okay, so before I jump too much into web components, I just quickly want to talk about my previous setup because it kind of gives significance into what you have to do differently to Polymer. So I was doing something like this, and by no means is this perfect, but it was it worked pretty well in a large team. So it was in its CSS architecture. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a scalable and manageable architecture. It looks something like this, if I can get it going. So it's broken up into these components. So we've got settings, tools, generic things like normalize and reset, all the based unstyled classes, objects, components, and trumps. And yeah, it's basically really easy to take stuff in and out. So most of the time you're going to be spending your time around the objects and components, taking things in and out. And it was the kind of the method that Harry Roberts, a UK front-end developer, pioneered basically. It's coded in SASS, so you get all those benefits like variables and mix-ins, and you can also have all your code in smaller chunks, so it's easier to manage. It was done in object-oriented CSS. We like this method because it was you could have more reusable things, less unique classes, a little bit easier to manage as well. And the other point is we use BEM, so I'm sure a few of you have heard that before. Naming conventions, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's kind of looks a bit strange if you're not used to it. If I jump into something like this, it kind of looks like this. So, for example, the classic media object. So you start at the top, the block, and then you have your elements underneath. And then you have things like your modifiers as well. So it just kind of gives you some scope. You know where the, I guess the classes start and stop, so it makes it easier for people to jump in and look at your code and actually understand it, because without those methods, it's pretty hard to jump into someone else's code. It's almost impossible. And the last one, it used Inuit and custom components, so that's things kind of like the media object I just showed, lists, and things like that. And basically, all these things were to make CSS easy to use, scalable and manageable as well. However, it kind of all changed when we got thrown into this new project where we couldn't use a style sheet anymore, and it was Polymer Web Components. So I guess a bit of show of hands. Who's heard of Polymer before and used it in a project? Okay, I can understand why. It's still pretty raw, not quite production ready yet. There's a couple of websites out there that kind of partly use it. Like if you've seen the gaming YouTube site, they kind of use it a little bit. And there's a few other examples if you check it out on the internet. But for those of you who don't know what it is, you've probably seen it before. So they're library and custom built tags that you can use, and one of them that you've probably been using, or maybe not, because that tag's probably not as good as the YouTube tag. But yeah, the video tag. So for example, if I kick that open, got some bear or something. Okay, so if you open that tag, you'll see it just kind of looks pretty normal, there's nothing really new here. But if you turn on this thing called the shadow DOM, it's going to give us access to this to the world of web components, I guess. So if we kick open that now, you see this thing called the shadow root. Inside there is where it, we can start seeing some HTML and CSS. So if I jump into the play button, for example, that's actually just an input, and there are all the styles that go with it. So web components are pretty much like that. They're all kind of packaged up into these little tags, and they contain HTML, CSS, APIs, and JavaScript. And yeah, we're starting to use them a fair bit now in our web pages and apps. Okay, so how Polymer styling works. So we still use CSS, which is great. I guess more so the cascading styles part rather than the sheet. So I'm not sure if that'll ever change, but that's pretty much where it's going. So yeah, no singular style sheet. The CSS styles are actually in the component. So if I jump open to, so this is just the, sorry, that's the wrong one. Yeah, this is just the Polymer starter kit. So it just gives you a basic Polymer shell with some basic routing for you to start your project if you want to kind of get a bit of jump start. So if we jump over to this, I want to show you the component before. So this is just a simple sort of nav drawer. Now if I jump into the editor again and we go into that, so we can see that shadow root thing again. So then we kind of see the style tag there. So all those, basically all the styling is inside here. So yeah, it's kind of like an embedded style sheet basically, and it can't actually jump out of there. It can't leak out of that shadow root. So anything in here can't affect anything out there. And we'll touch on that a little bit more later. There are different levels of hierarchy, so you can style in the component, you can style in the parent, and you can style globally from the Polymer shell. A quick example of that is, so I've got just a basic, I've just downloaded the Polymer starter kit myself. I've got a card there, and if I add, so this is what it kind of looks like. So we've got, some dependencies up the top. We've got our styles here, we've got our HTML here, and we've got our JavaScript here. So if I jump back up to the styles part, and I'll just give that a background of red, for example, you can see that, we've got a red background. If I do the same thing on the outside, so if I try and target it and give it a background red from the parent, so this page, give that a refresh, it won't actually work. So this is where Polymer actually is a little bit different. You actually have to, it's called exposing a variable. So it looks like this guy here. So this is to get around, I guess, the fact that you can style things from a parent, but it's a bit more locked down, so you can't go too crazy. So in this example here, I've got I've exposed my card background color. If I give that a save, and then I jump back to the parent and I reference that variable there and give that a refresh, I can actually style it from there. So this is really important, and it's probably where I spend most of the time, because you want to be we want to be styling these things to be able to move them to other projects if you need to. So for example, just like the nav drawer, I know you might have a chat component that you've built and you want to bring it into a new project. If you have some, I guess, hard-coded styles in there, then it's a lot harder to theme. But if you just seriously just drop this Polymer component in, then you can target all the exposed variables, and it just makes it really, really clean for theming and for styling. The other one I was going to show you as well is styling it from the root of the shell. So basically, my app is the very top in this case, and that has the page my view, which has the component my card. So if I target the, just quickly, in this example, I've got 3 inputs. I've got 1 in the shell, I've got 1 in the page, and I've got 1 in the card. Oops, let me just close that. and that input has an exposed variable called paper input container color focus. So if I give that a save, give that a refresh, then all those underlines are green. So you can speed up the process and do things across the board. So they're kind of the three basic ways of styling it. There's also this thing called shared styles as well. So they're kind of more for pages. So kind of, I guess, away from the component. So if you have like an About Us page and you have big slabs of content and you want to kind of have background colors and all that sort of stuff, you'll use what's called share styles. So you can use them across the whole website. But just be careful not to tie too many components to the shared styles, because then shared styles is a dependency and it's harder to reuse them in other projects. So it's more so for page styling things. Now the next example I'll get you show is the style encapsulation. So this is really handy if the new guy comes to the office and just does something nuts like this and breaks your whole site. This is where this is really helpful. So I'm just going to quickly show you my site. So yeah, if someone comes in and just does something that's going to break your site, then yeah, all your backgrounds are kind of red, messed up, and yeah, no one's happy. So yeah, I guess it shows how fragile I guess CSS can be at times. I mean, in a well-managed team, it's usually absolutely fine, but yeah, without I guess the proper training, you might be stepping on someone else's toes, and someone else might be stepping on your toes. If I try and do the same thing in the Polymer example, so if I try and target every single div and give it a background of red, and I switch back and just give that a refresh, you can see that it's still only contained in this component. I haven't broken anything else. So I guess it's really it's good to know that when you're pushing content up, that you're not breaking anyone else's stuff. And for example, yeah, if I just quickly try to do it from the page, give that a refresh. Oh, hang on, I've got to save that one. Oh, hang on, I'm still styling it from back there as well. So yeah, only affected the div in the page, and so forth for everywhere else. They do utilize Flexbox a fair bit. I guess a fair few websites are kind of predominantly going to Flexbox, and it's a really great layout tool, and it's becoming, it's obviously available in all the modern browsers. You don't have to compensate for the old Internet Explorers as much. Polymer does come with variables, so those of you who are familiar with SASS and the pre-compilers, you still get variables in there. They also have mix-ins as well, so you can put in slabs of styles with all the prefixes. And it's not quite as powerful as SASS, so you can't do like a whole bunch of crazy logic to pump out styles, but it's not a bad start, and I guess they'll possibly expand on it later. And you can also style through the attributes as well. So I guess for a simple example, the table tag, you can style that through the attribute by giving it border 1. You don't necessarily have to use CSS. And this is the same thing. So in this example, I'm just going to show you the like a Polymer toolbar. So this website is the Polymer Elements. It has a whole bunch of Polymer examples on there. So if I just quickly jump to here, so attributes like reveals, condensers, effects like waterfall. You can do stuff straight away. So the header is going to shrink down, turn to a color, and then on the push up, it's going to slide back down. So you can build one component and you can use it in multiple different ways. And yeah, once you've done it once, it's really easy to port across to another project and use it again. So yeah, there's some really good stuff on there. Check it out. It's the Polymer Elements page. So yeah, basically, to expand on that a little bit more, all the material design stuff, so for those of you who are familiar with material design, a lot of Polymer stuff has material design components, so things like inputs and app drawers and all those sort of things, and date pickers. So if you are doing material design, it's really easy to use this. You can totally customize it if you need to, but if you are using material design, then yeah, Polymer does have components for you. So yeah, Polymer is just like any other styling framework. So yeah, don't be scared of it. I found it really intuitive to pick up. It's basically like has similarities to Sketch, SASS, React, Angular. So we have color variables, we have theme variables, we have our mix-ins just like SASS. Basically, every time we create a new symbol in Sketch, basically means we have to create a new component in Polymer, and you can do all the prototyping sort of stuff like looping data. It's really easy to do to sort of test out your designs and see if they hold up with a whole bunch of crazy data. So yeah, just to summarize again what I like about it. So yeah, obviously the style encapsulation's been really good for our team, even though yeah, guys aren't as good as others. They're still not treading on anybody's toes. I like how all the code's in one place: the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript. It's good to for the developer to see. There's the chunk HTML, there's the CSS. It's not in another file. It's easy to understand, and for you to jump in there and look at the JavaScript as well to see what's going on. It has some great third-party tools. So that's the Polymer Elements, and there's also another website called Custom Elements. So that's people who have built their own Polymer components, and you can just download it with Bower, theme it up, and start using it in your project straight away. Yeah, it does feel very much like an app. So they've paid close attention to the way elements like kind of repaint, and everything's really quick and slick, and it's just works like a single page app. And yeah, the styling framework is really intuitive. So just some final notes. So I guess where the whole web components is going, they hopefully want to get a set of standards that they can eventually package into browsers. So it's going to be a bit similar to, I guess, iOS and Android. I know that they do come with certain things like app drawers and bottom navs and things like that. So eventually, yeah, they want to get a set of standards that's going to be packaged into the browser. So that way, when you visit websites, they're going to load a lot quicker because the browser already has some of the components, and it's going to lift the standards as well of a lot of websites because, yeah, there's still way too many dodgy ones out there. Polyfill for older browsers. So for those of you who are worried about older browsers, they do create this thing called a polyfill. So polyfill is basically, I guess, programming that caters for older browsers not having what the newer browsers have. So yeah, it does cater for things like IE10 and not sure how far it goes, but does cater for some of it. Yeah, it did really sort of question if we needed CSS these CSS methods anymore, since since we're chucking out the one style sheet. Do we need any of these methods anymore? It doesn't mean you can be super sloppy. There are sort of certain ways that the Polymer guys have coded up their components. So yeah, it's kind of like, if you have a set of buttons, they'll call the container buttons and things like that. File efficiency. I haven't played around with this too much because we kind of let the other devs kind of handle the vulcanizing. The vulcanizing is when it kind of packages up and concatenates all the files and makes it super quick. So yeah, I'm not sure about sort of how to get the lowest file size in terms of the styles, but from all the examples, it does seem super quick and quite small as well. So Polymer is currently in 1.0. It's still a bit it's still a bit unfinished. They're fixing bugs all the time. So yeah, you just got to kind of be patient. Polymer 2.0, yeah, should be a bit closer to production, and that's currently in beta testing. Does anyone have any questions?